Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Relationships are tough. Ain't nobody saying it's easy. And I don't care how much you love someone, if you don't have emotional intelligence, that love alone won't carry you. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is that secret sauce that makes people click, not just in romance, but in friendships, with family, and in the workplace too. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start at the very beginning. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the foundation of any strong, lasting relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships here. I mean friendships, family, even your coworkers. See, we often focus so much on love, trust, and communication, thinking those are the magic ingredients. But here's the thing without emotional intelligence. All of those things can crumble. You can love someone deeply, but if you don't manage your own emotions, how to recognize theirs, and how to respond thoughtfully, that love won't be enough to sustain the relationship. EQ is what allows you to step back, take a breath, and think before you react when tensions rise. It's what lets you listen, not just to the words someone says, but to the feelings behind those words. When you have a high EQ, you can sense when someone is upset, even when they insist they're fine. You can navigate difficult conversations without letting anger, frustration, or pride take control. And that, my friends, is the difference between a relationship that lasts and one that falls apart over misunderstandings. Emotional intelligence gives you the tools to repair damage before it becomes irreparable, to empathize when you might otherwise judge, and to communicate in ways that strengthen bonds rather than break them. It's the quiet, invisible skill that determines whether your connections are deep and lasting or shallow and temporary. So, if you want relationships that survive the tests of time, if you want bonds that grow stronger instead of weaker, developing your emotional intelligence is not optional, it's essential. Ladies and gentlemen, understanding yourself and your partner is one of the most important things you can do in any relationship. Too often, people jump into love without really knowing who they are, what they need, or what triggers them. And when that happens, misunderstandings pile up, frustration grows, and resentment sneaks in before you even realize it. Understanding yourself means being honest about your emotions, your strengths, and your weaknesses. It means recognizing what makes you happy, what hurts you, and what patterns you might repeat in relationships. When you truly know yourself, you can communicate your needs clearly instead of expecting your partner to guess. And you can take responsibility for your reactions instead of blaming them. But understanding yourself is only half the equation. The other half is understanding your partner. It's about taking the time to notice their moods, their concerns, their dreams, and even their unspoken feelings. It's about realizing that they are a separate human being with thoughts and emotions that may not always align with yours. And here's the catch: understanding doesn't mean agreement. You don't have to think the same way or react the same way, but you do need to recognize and respect their perspective. That awareness changes the way you interact, the way you respond in conflict, and the way you show love. When both people in a relationship make the effort to understand themselves and each other, empathy grows, communication improves, and the bond becomes stronger. Without that understanding, even the deepest love can feel strained because misunderstandings and assumptions start to rule the day. Understanding is the bridge that connects two hearts, and without it, the distance between people only grows. Ladies and gentlemen, managing your emotions is one of the most powerful skills you can bring into any relationship And it's often the difference between harmony and constant conflict. You see, every relationship will face disagreements, frustrations, and stressful moments. That's just a fact of life. But the way you handle those emotions is what defines the outcome. People with high emotional intelligence understand that reacting impulsively, lashing out in anger, or shutting down in frustration only makes things worse. Managing your emotions doesn't mean ignoring how you feel or pretending everything is okay. It means recognizing your feelings, taking a step back, and choosing the best way to respond rather than simply reacting. When you can pause and reflect, you give yourself the opportunity to communicate clearly, listen actively, and respond with empathy. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, that pause is powerful. It can turn a fight into a conversation, a misunderstanding into understanding, and tension into connection. Emotional self-control also prevents resentment from building up. If you constantly let anger or irritation take control, those little sparks become raging fires over time. Managing your emotions allows you to handle conflict without damaging the bond you share with your partner. It allows you to stay present, focus on solutions instead of blame, and create an environment where both people feel heard and respected. And here's the beauty of it. When you model emotional control, it encourages your partner to do the same, creating a cycle of calm, constructive communication. In relationships, emotions are inevitable, but chaos is optional. The ability to manage your emotions keeps love strong, conflicts manageable, and hearts connected. Ladies and gentlemen, empathy is one of the most powerful tools you can have in any relationship. It's more than just to someone's words. It's about understanding the emotions behind those words, feeling what they feel, and responding in a way that shows you truly care. Too often, people hear what their partner says but fail to grasp what they really mean. Maybe they say, "I'm fine," but their tone, their posture, or their silence tells a different story. A person with empathy notices these signs and takes the time to dig deeper, to connect not just with the words, but with the heart. Empathy allows you to step into someone else's shoes without judgment, to see the world from their perspective, and to validate their feelings even when you don't fully agree. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, validation is not the same as agreement. You can understand and acknowledge someone's feelings without having to adopt them as your own. When you respond with empathy, conflicts are likely to escalate because your partner feels seen, heard, and respected. Empathy strengthens trust because it communicates that you care enough to understand them on a level deeper than the surface. It transforms conversations from transactional exchanges into emotional connections, from arguments into opportunities for growth and understanding. And it's not just about big moments or major crises. Empathy shows up in everyday interactions. Noticing when your partner is stressed, celebrating their small victories, or offering support without being asked. When empathy is present in a relationship, it creates a safe space where both people can be vulnerable, honest, and deeply connected. Without it, even the strongest love can feel shallow, distant, or disconnected. Empathy is the bridge that turns a relationship into a true partnership where both hearts feel fully understood and appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, communication is the lifeblood of any relationship, but how we communicate can either build bridges or erect walls. Emotional intelligence plays a massive role here because it teaches us how to speak and listen in ways that strengthen the bond rather than weaken it. Too often, people communicate with their partner from a place of frustration, pride, or defensiveness, and what comes out is sharp, hurtful, or misunderstood. But when communication is guided by emotional intelligence, it transforms into a tool for connection. It's about choosing words carefully, being mindful of tone, and considering how your partner might interpret your message. It's also about active listening, not just hearing words, but truly understanding the feelings and intentions behind them. When you communicate this way, you create a space where both people feel safe to express themselves honestly, without fear of judgment or attack. Emotional intelligence also helps you address difficult topics without letting emotions spiral out of control. You can express your concerns, set boundaries, or share frustrations while still maintaining respect and empathy. This approach turns potential conflicts into opportunities for growth, understanding, and deeper intimacy. And here's the beauty of it, ladies and gentlemen, communication guided by emotional intelligence isn't just reactive, it's proactive. It encourages checking in with your partner, sharing thoughts and feelings regularly, and nurturing connection before misunderstandings arise. Over time, this builds a strong foundation of trust, respect, and mutual support. Without this kind of communication, even small misunderstandings can fester, creating walls keep hearts and minds apart. With it, relationships thrive because both people feel heard, valued, and deeply connected on every level. Ladies and gentlemen, love is not just about passion or chemistry. It thrives when emotional intelligence is consistently applied through forgiveness, listening, and understanding. You see, every relationship will face challenges, disagreements, and moments where one or both people fall short. That's where emotional intelligence steps in. It teaches you to forgive, not because your partner deserves it, but because holding on to anger and resentment only poisons the connection. Forgiveness guided by emotional intelligence is intentional. It allows you to release hurt while still maintaining boundaries and learning from the experience. But forgiveness alone is not enough. Listening plays an equally critical role. And I don't mean just hearing the words. I mean truly listening with your heart, paying attention to tone, emotions, and unspoken signals. Listening creates a space where your partner feels valued and understood, which strengthens trust and intimacy. Emotional intelligence also allows you to understand your partner's perspective, even when it differs from your own. Understanding is more than empathy. It's the ability to grasp their needs, fears, and desires without judgment, to see the relationship through their eyes, and to respond with care. When forgiveness, listening, and understanding are consistently practiced, love doesn't just survive, it flourishes. Arguments become opportunities to grow closer rather than drift apart. Challenges become lessons in teamwork rather than reasons for resentment, and every moment of connection deepens the bond. Relationships guided by emotional intelligence create a cycle of respect, patience, and compassion that strengthens over time. In other words, love isn't just an emotion. It's a skill that is cultivated through the consistent application of emotional intelligence in every interaction, big or small.